I see so many beginners pump foilers doing over and over the same mistake. And it's not even about the gear, the spot, or necessarily the technique. It's inside here. Yeah, you got the point. It's one of those long, boring mindset and technique videos. But watch it until the end, because I'm pretty sure that I'm going to reveal a few tips that I've never ever revealed in my videos. The truth is that we overthink it. Myself included back then, when I was getting absolutely nowhere, as I was stuck at the same point for month and month, is because I was overthinking it. I was watching videos, I was trying to understand the small little tip that could make the movement click. But the truth is that I just needed to put in the time, and probably so do you. So don't stress if you're not there yet. Like, you need to put there the time and the effort. It's not gonna come on its own. You cannot have the epiphany, you cannot make it click by watching videos. Yes, they're helpful, of course, otherwise I would do something else, but you need to go in the water, you need to put in the time. And this is, I would say, the macro, because in the micro, I would say again, don't overthink it. Because if every time you're at the dock, and you're like, okay, I need to do this, and then your brain just crushes, right? You need to feel it, right? You need to use a little bit more the instinct. So after you practice on land, so you don't crash on the foil and injure yourself, just don't overthink it. There are a few things that you need to remember. Just repeat the drill aloud, repeat the drill in your mind, and then just feel it. Just get on the board and get the first glide and try to understand how the foil behaves. And even when you get some glide and you manage to do some pumps, don't try, please, to go as far as possible, because this way you'll get nowhere. That's the best way to develop bad habits. If you want to do like a thing that will fasten your learning process, after the start, after you get the first pumps, just try to feel what's going on. Try to glide, try to understand how the foil really behaves, like when the foil is rising, when it's losing speed, when it's accelerating, because at the end of the day, it's all about developing that sensitivity that you need to control the foil. Because if you're just pushing, you don't really understand what's going on, and you're never ever gonna be efficient. How can you be efficient if you're just pressing and pumping because you think that that's how you are supposed to do? Just like Yvonne said in his last video,
chaque aile, elle a son sinus propre à elle, ok? Et il faut essayer de respecter ce sinus, on va dire.
Amazing technique breakdown. He gives incredible tips. You should really watch it if you haven't yet. He says, like, let the foil do its things, right? So the foil decides when to pitch down, not you, right? So over and over again, as I mentioned countless times, just focus on hopping, focus on relieving your weight off the board, and then remain loose with your legs to allow the foil to rise underneath your feet, and then nothing else. Because the descent, the push, the pressing on the pad, pressing on the board, gaining speed, it's really just about charging, preparing for the next hop. Like Yvonne says,
la plupart des gens, enfin tout le monde, pousse trop fort. Surtout quand vous êtes fatigué. La poussée, quand vous poussez vers le bas, plus vous poussez fort, plus votre mât il va s'enfoncer. Moins vous poussez fort, plus votre temps de descente va être rallongé. Et du coup, le fait que votre temps de descente soit rallongé, c'est le rythme qui va baisser. Donc, essayez de pousser moins fort possible, délester rapidement, et après pousser le moins fort possible. Il faut pousser comme si vous étiez sur des œufs pour pas casser les œufs, pas casser votre planche.
Imagine that you are pumping on eggs, right? So you need to be very gentle in the descent, actually. But if you go like most pump foilers at the beginning, myself included, of course, we were just trying to pump. We were just pressing. But of course, it's inefficient because, like Rob says in the interview that we did together for the podcast Up on Foil, which, by the way, you can listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or here on my channel, and sometimes also on Matt's channel.
In the end, there's always the stuff like you need to be precise. Like you talk about it, Ludo talked about it, Nicolas Eaton talked about it. You need to know when to push the board. So what Ludo said, I think, was one of the best explanations, because if you have the foil still angled up too much and you try to push it down, you have a big mass of water you push. But if you go smooth, there's not much water you push, so it's way more efficient.
He says, if you press when the board is still pointing up, then you're just slowing down. You're just pushing water. You're just braking. It's a brake, right? So please just focus on hopping, relieving your weight, and try to understand what's going on underneath your feet, right? Because if you do the right movement, if you hop forward, so if you shift your weight on your front leg while you hop, then you're going to automatically pitch the board down. That's how it works. That's essentially the pumping movement, which again is not about pressing on the board. It's about hopping at the right moment for enough time, because that's another thing. You don't decide the cadence, like the foil decides the cadence. Yes, you can maybe, you can decide the speed, but you cannot decide the cadence, right? The cadence changes according to your speed, but the cadence itself is given by the foil, by the setup in general. The foil, the fuselage, the tail, and stuff, right? That is also why, like Gwen says in the episode that we did together again with Matt,
learning how to pump and learning how to glide at different speed, like being able to not make the foils like pump, glide, and almost like sometimes a good drill would be like you're gonna glide until you get your board back to the water. You try to glide the furthest you can without making the foil stall, because what you need to learn is like how the sweet spot change depending on your speed, and that's very important when you're downwind, because sometimes you get the bump, you need to slow down, you need to accelerate, and that weight has to shift.
It is so important to learn how to glide first. And even when you learn how to glide, the best way to learn efficient pumping is to practice over and over the pump and glide drill. Like every time someone asks me a question in my private community, which by the way you can join after you get the free pump full guide link in the description, more often than not, the pump and glide drill is the answer. Because if you cannot be efficient, if you struggle reaching the minute, if you reach the minute but then you are burnt out, most probably it's because you're not efficient. And how do you become efficient? Stop, overthink it, feel it, and practice the pump and glide drill. Because if you practice the pump and glide drill, you're going to learn how to glide straight, how to glide far, so you're going to become efficient, you're going to understand your foil, and then you're going to understand how to pick up speed and height at the same time. And this makes you efficient. Because if you don't have speed, if you don't have height, and you have to generate it, and you're in the water, then you need to be efficient. Because if you're not going to be efficient, you're not going to be able to pick it up, and you're going to stall and you're going to fall, right? That is why it is such a great exercise to not only learn but also improve over and over. I still do it. Because precision is never enough. And also when you try new foils, you have to really understand the foil. And the best way to do that is again to practice the pump and glide drill. You see, I like to compare pump foiling with business, because it's a delay gratification.
You've put in the time, so that's the key. Like, sure, you can share what you learn now, but you will never be able to skip putting in the time, even if True. Because the tips that you share, and the tips that I share, it makes sense for me in the way that it makes sense for you. Like, we feel it because we've experienced it. When you say to someone, maybe they understand what you say, but it just doesn't click. It just doesn't, they don't feel it.
You have to put in the time, you have to put in the work, and you have to be willing to practice, to work, to fail for 1, 2, maybe 3 years until you get that gratification, until you get the reward. Again, it's delayed gratification. And as I said at the beginning of the video, yes, watch the videos, study the tutorials, practice on land, but once you are out there at the dock, just don't overthink it, right? Remember the drill that you practice, remember what you watched, but don't overthink it. Just be more instinctive. Because if you just try to replicate and try to tell yourself so many things at the same time, you're just gonna do whatever on the board, which is not what we want, right? We wanna feel the board, wanna feel the glide and feel the pump. And also reduce the excess potential that you put in each trial. Like, if you fall, nothing is gonna happen. Stop putting so much pressure on yourself. It is way more effective, in my opinion, when you are there at the dock, instead of just thinking, overthinking, just delete everything and just visualize yourself pumping. Visualize yourself being light like a cat. Because at the end of the day, if you use your instinct, it's going to be easier to get on the board. Because dockstarting is that. You need to get on the board first, and then you have to glide. And if you stop overthinking it, and you just think that you are a cat, and you need to get on the board. If you're really into it, by the way, I recently put together a 3-hour video containing all the best videos I made in the last 1.5 years. You can go ahead and watch it after this one. It's going to be linked here somewhere. It's going to be pretty helpful, in my opinion, if you have the patience to watch it. And you should, because if you don't have the patience to watch a 3-hour video, then you're probably not going to have the patience required to learn pump foiling.